A personal epiphany about beta males. Guys! Red Pill, Midswatch, Brian, it's good to see you. This one, it's a nice, interesting one about guys who become Red Pill and then become insufferable. I talk about it in Praxeology Volume 1 Frame. I call it the 6-month period where you're going to be insufferable. I know there's a better, it's wordsmithed way better in the book. Go buy it, because I'm not going to read it out again, because I have to pull it up. Yeah. But the point is, once you've figured out your life, you become your mental point of origin, yada, 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 all the good stuff, you basically become insufferable. You're like, I can't watch movies, I can't listen to music, I can't make friends with anybody. It's because you're so hyper-focused on the brand new shiny keys that you've been jingling in front of you, and you're good at them, that you become horrible, and nobody can tell you anything. And it wears off after a while, and you start to realize, just because people aren't exactly the way you are doesn't mean that they're useless to you. Granted, if you're autistic, definitely not, but that's the problem. The ones who talk about karate the most are the white belts, not the black belts, and that's the same situation here. The guys who are the least likely to be effective and good cheerleaders of anything Red Pill tend to be the ones that won't shut up about it and have to filter it into their entire worldview. So here's an example for you. Sadberry's personal epiphany about beta males. We got a new holiday place, and the guy living across the road, super friendly. The first time we arrived, we were unloading our furniture. As he was there introducing himself and his dog, his wife didn't come over, asked if I needed tools or anything. No, we're good. And then asked and scuttled off. We were there for a week, bumped into him every day. Should go for a coffee at a little scene place, and I'm thinking, what the fuck? I got the place to go with the beach and the kids, not dump them for bro time. Every time we go to the house, he pops out as we arrive and comes over for a hello and a chat. Asks my wife what she thought. She thinks he's just being friendly. And I say he's creepy, like he wants to screw me or swap wives or something. Maybe he wants to marry you, who knows? The guys next door on the other side are different. They keep to themselves. I've smiled and waved once. And the other set are friendly when we have chance encounters. The friendlier guy I've spoken to maybe 4 or 5 times, but I like him. Holds a good conversation, actually gave me some great advice on something I implemented to great effect. I like the style, and better than I do of Ned Flanders. So it just struck me on the weekend that the creepy guy is probably now what you would think of as a beta orbiter, looking like to women. Women that like have guys around for validation, but they don't want them sexually. Maybe women just get so used to the nice guy thing, take that what you can, entitlement, gracing them with your friendship, blah, 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 overtly suckling, likes the guys too, I guess. Anyways, he kind of rambles there. Jack's like, I love this. This is actually one of my favorite ones of his. He's like, man, you don't have many friends, do you? Because if you did, you'd recognize that men will generally organize themselves into hierarchical structures, not orbital ones, which means you can have a beta friend and still get some value out of it and vice versa, especially if you're a homeowner and the potential friend in question is a neighbor. Generally, somebody with the socioeconomic status to own a home is competent at something. A beta bucks guy just means his wife is not fucking him. But the fact that he's 40 pounds overweight, still wears members-only jackets, or has a haircut from 1988 does not change the relevant relationship to you. His unattractive appearance and tryhard personality would reflect poorly on you if you were going to parties in Vegas. But he's asking you for a coffee. He's not asking you for Vegas. For example, maybe he's a criminal defense lawyer. So unlike your other lawyer friends who mostly toil in corporate law firms dealing with things like health insurance disputes, this guy has some real-life law and helps you get out of your next speeding ticket. What does he want in return? For you to get some coffee with him at the local scene, which I'm sure he's raved about, and make some comment like, wow, this is a great view, maybe we should get some lunch with family sometime. The fact that a new acquaintance is giving him validation will be such a brilliant stroke of dopamine in his mind that he'll probably do any favor you'd ever want to ask of him in the future. Value exchange. Value goes 2 ways. Think about that. What the fuck? What the fuck? Maybe you don't need anything from him. Maybe he has a boring job in an obscure STEM field with 0 real-world applicability. You're going to eventually need a plumber or a handyman, and instead of rolling the dice with Yelp, you can just ask him if he knows a good plumber. What's great about these thirsty Aspie guys is that they're 100% incapable of lying, just like Ned Flanders. Look, I know this sounds pretty dark triad for the comments I usually leave, and the advice above should be uncharitably described as probably just some lame user, but he might be useful, so pretend to be his friend so you can do him favors. Let me explain in the plainest way I can that this way of thinking is retarded. And the way he's talking about is like, staff, men and women, overtly sucking up to me creep me out even less as their agenda is obvious, like nice guys, I suppose. This creeps you out because you're too freaked out about the idea that you're a high status male. It's an unfamiliar feeling. You're not a cool guy. Nobody treats you as cool, and when they do, you flash back to some Carrie moment in your formative years where the cool guys thought it'd be hilarious to pretend you were cool, and then dump pig's blood all over your prom dress. The idea that you're a high status man in society is so foreign to you that your mind just freaks out. Your post could literally be interpreted as self-loathing. Do you know this? Do you understand this? Why does this guy think I'm cool? I'm a loser. If he's acting this nice to me, he must be even a bigger loser. You are also way too socially retarded, and I mean that in a clinical sense, to trust your judgment of people's incentives and too passive to reject covert contracts. Someone kissing your ass is doing it for a reason. There is no free lunch. But if somebody offers you lunch and then asks you to pay afterwards, there are several situations where you can just say, how about no? And when you do that, they'll probably be annoyed and frustrated. They will react somewhat negatively. And if you're still struggling with issues of codependency like most guys, it probably just doesn't apply to your wife. The idea of anybody thinking poorly of you just kills you and makes you all sort of embarrassed and anxious and upset. But you hate paying for lunch that you didn't really want and only ate it because it seemed free. So now that you can't even eat a fucking sample at Costco because you're worried there's a covert contract that enjoying the spicy pickle sample means you have to now buy a $36 pickle jar set, you don't have to do shit. But if you don't buy that set, then the random guy hanging out at the samples might frown a bit, might cause you would totally freak out about a piece of shit and how much of a piece of shit you are, and how dare you make somebody else feel bad. But you know, fuck the Costco guy if he has a covert contract. And to be honest, very few people you deal with are on a strict sales or commission basis anyway. The Costco guy is not paid a percentage of the 36 pickle jar sets. He's probably just frowned because you said, wow, this pickle's really good, and then just decided to buy the jars, and disappointed is a natural reaction to feel when somebody likes your stuff but declines to buy it. But hey, you know his disappointment's not your problem, right? And that's why you freak out when an employee at the Banana Republic asks if they can help you when you walk into the store. Because their agenda is not obvious. Why is he helpful? Does he get a commission? But the prices are all on the shirts. It's not like he can overcharge me, but maybe he's going to say I look good in some shirts to convince me to buy it. What do I buy anyway? Should I ask him if he have any sales? Maybe he'll think I'm cheap and roll his eyes. Oh God, I hate when people think I'm cheap, but I don't want to buy this stuff. Let's look cheap. You kind of get the point we're going through here, right? And that's why you grunt, no, I'm good, I'm just looking, and charge past him with an awkward power walk, because that's too much cognitive load for your poor socially incompetent mind. So let me give you a personal example with somebody who isn't heavily incentivized to give you a free lunch and then to fuck you over later. If you buy a car, you know you shouldn't trust the sales guy any further than you can throw him. I remember when my wife and I had kids and we needed to get a bigger car, or, you know, the crossover to an SUV. So we go to the dealership, talk to the sales guy about test driving a crossover SUV. But we drove there in my car, which is still several years old because I basically buy a Honda every 10 years and call it a day. So the sales guy says, you know, if you're also looking to sedans, we also have a spiffy new sedan that's heavily promoted in the NFL commercial just arrived on our lot. Do you want to test drive one of those too? Now, I know there's no free lunch here. He's not just letting me take that sucker out for altruistic sake. I also have zero interest in buying that car, but I did have an interest in driving it. So I said, sure. He says, sure, let me get the keys. Your wife will test drive the SUV, then we'll pull up the sedan and drive that. Comes back a few minutes later. He says, oh, since this is a very new release and we only have 6 units in the whole lot, I can't even test drive the sedan without a credit check. This is where Opp and I suspect that 70% of the married red pill would back out. But you'd probably do it for your stinky, grumpy, aspy way, you know, I knew there was a catch, I'm not interested, as you flashed your manila folder containing printouts of TrueSAR and blah, blah, blah. It probably didn't even occur to you to smile a little and say, look, it's a really nice car, I'd love to test drive it. So I guess maybe I'll come back when you guys have more inventory, unless you can do something about it now. Guy leaves again, wife starts freaking out. What are you doing? You can't buy 2 cars. And if I say no, if he insists I have to run a credit check, then he's either a sleazeball salesman or a worthless peon to his sleazeball salesman manager. But if I get to test drive that car, then I'll consider him working with me in good enough faith to consider buying the crossover SUV. And by the way, okay, yeah, more it's like about the reference there, so we'll skip past that. It's not like the sales guy got zero out of the interaction. He knows I drove the whole interaction with him, and appealing to my wife to try and divide and conquer us would be pointless. He doesn't know my credit, but he knows I'm smart enough to know that hard credit inquiries aren't something you should just let somebody run. In other words, he knows I'm not stupid, but he also knows I'm not going to be difficult. Clearly, I'm getting more out of this interaction than he is, but he's selling me shit, so of course that's going to happen. That's the power dynamic. Long story short, test drive both cars. I test drive the sedan, the sales guy's excited, but the turning radius was clunky, so I made some comments like, man, this thing can't be easy to parallel park. Tries to salvage my opinion, talks about the rear view cameras, which is cool tech for the 2000s and all that, but I'm like, not feeling it, which I wasn't. Okay, so we're going to skip in. Did he end up buying the car or not? It doesn't really matter. But that was the point, is that he's trying to show how you handle these interactions where you're worried about people's motives and you're acting like somebody who has power in a situation with a little bit of social grace. And not just, oh, somebody likes me, must be a beta male. All right, so I'm going to skip a lot of this because it's just more of the random story. Gets to the summary of it. So do you or anybody else who wants to shit on the Ned Flanders type who just wanted to grab a coffee with you, who's the actual loser, you or him? Because you may be socially adept, but only in misleading people about your opinions because you're terrified of disappointing them. I'm thinking, what the hell? You know, and that's the quote. I go to the beach with the kids not to dump them for some bro time. He's like, yeah, don't tell him this. Just think it and resent him, but don't ever tell somebody how you really feel because they could be sad face and you'd rather just whine about losers who think they found a kindred loser on the internet than say finding out some way he could be valuable in your life because then he seems to crave your winning presence. Or you can always just say, look, man, you're a friendly guy, but I'm a private person. I'd prefer to spend time with my family when we're here. I think you're a good dude. Happy this neighborhood has people like you here. I just don't have time to socialize. Again, that is honest. That would be a much better way of doing it than sitting here. Oh, good beta male. You see what I mean? Okay, we're going to skip all the way to the actionable advice, which a lot of skipping. So to sum this up with some actionable advice, go get some coffee with Ned Flanders. He may be a good guy to know for one reason or another, and unlike an orbiter relationship, this is a hierarchical one. This is why your mere company has value to him, but it will probably be some logical reason, or logistical reason. Useful guy to know for his profession, good recommendations, home service vendors, whatever. It seems like he's getting the short end of the stick, but that's literally why it's a hierarchical relationship. If business owners didn't get more value out of their employees than they paid them, they would literally go out of business. But the business owner has something in high demand, jobs to fill, that a lot of other people don't, and so it gets valued higher, and that's the disparity. And in any relationship that doesn't involve two people fucking each other over, that's pretty much okay. In fact, most relationships are going to be hierarchical in some way. These power dynamics exist everywhere. You can be completely ignorant of them, or you can learn them and utilize them. If you still struggle to understand this, think of the benevolent jock archetype. That's the high status guy that tells his friends to stop messing with you, not because he feels bad, but more because he's secure and confident enough that he doesn't need to reassert his rung on the social ladder by giving you a wedgie every 5 minutes, and also realizes it was effective social proof in junior high, but not high school. This is about a guy, like, you know, being the kind jock, doesn't want guys getting bullied. Anyways, more rambling about that, but here's the fun part. So, in fact, this is the way society works. This is the way people work. This is the way relationships work. In fact, the only place where our blue-pilled society does not like to consider these kind of power dynamics is romantic relationships. Think about every movie you've seen with a sociopathic character, manipulating the power dynamics, blah, 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 professional, financial gain. But then there's a scene where he throws $10,000 at his wife and tells her, your tits are small, they bore me, get a boob job. For most audience, that's where their opinion shifts from, well, he's a psychopath, but he's lovable, and I have some respect to his cleverness too, what a piece of shit. And that's why, if you're blue pill indoctrinated, and you have zero friends because you have zero social skills, you're doubly fucked. Some guys who read the red pill stuff are able to process it and think, oh yeah, like that time I gradually stopped hanging out with my old college buddy because he wouldn't stop acting like a prick. I should just do that with my wife, she's such a bitch. Why would I invest time in people that are shitty to me? This is why we say Stop putting pussy on a pedestal. Some guys advocate throwing the pussy in the trash can, put it in its place and hold it accountable, and you could do that, sure. But you could also just put it on the shelf with every other social relationship you have in your life. The ones where you put the more valuable ones on higher shelves and shift them around so the ones that are less valuable are on the lower shelves, and then you just act accordingly. If you have experiences with other relationships and other shelves, then understanding why your wife always gets shelf number 1 regardless of behavior makes no sense. But if you don't have those expectations, well, that's where you're the kind of guy who lets his wife call him a piece of shit for bringing home 36 jars of the pickles from Costco because you were too anxious not to buy them from the Costco sampler. Like, did you ever wonder why so many guys in here complain that their wives aren't responding to an increase in sexual market value despite a dramatically improved physical appearance? Maybe that's because there's way too much of a history of observing how you act in all these examples I describe above. So instead of doing things like immediately launching yourself from the couch when she's not interested in sex, but saying, Married Red Pill says I'm stoic, I need to run out of the house, and I'm high status and blah, 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 maybe just start acting with a little more social savviness. So I skipped a lot of it. He's actually very wordy on this one, and it's kind of annoying. When I record this video, and if you're watching this one not live, you might see like a giant gap and you might be a little lost, but here's the key point. A lot of guys think that relationships are not hierarchical. Like somebody doesn't have more to offer than the other person does, or the things that they offer have differing values, but the other person wants them more, which is like a factor. So for example, the job one. More people want jobs than are offering jobs. So the people offering jobs can set higher stakes because the person below that values it more. Same thing with a relationship. And that's the main blue pill programming, is where people stop thinking about relationships like a informal hierarchy. Somebody is offering somebody something of value and the other person is offering something else of value. Luckily with men and women, what we are offering is what the other person lacks. And so they're seen as more valuable. As a guy, calm, soft, stoic, strong, I can reach the top shelf of the cupboards. That's stuff that women can't do. And so they treat it as extremely valuable. Meanwhile, women, what they offer you, sex, because you can't get sex from anything other than a woman. Well, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. So ideally, and this is what Rollo means when he talks a lot about the sexes are better together than apart. The things that you offer and the things that she offer are different things, and you guys value them differently. That's why for you think, I'm not giving her anything of value, but she just worships the ground I walk on. It's like, yeah, the things you're offering her are things that you don't value because you have them in abundance, but she has them well, she doesn't have them. And that's why she values them higher. And then reciprocally. And that's how two people can think they're the better one. They're offering less in the relationship, but getting more. So yeah, some things to consider on this one. And if you notice you're one of those guys that as you get red pilled, you start getting more value, you start seeing everybody as they're all against you. They're all trying to steal something from you. And they must be losers because they think I'm a winner. It's like right there. It kind of lets you know you're that guy who used to be shitty and now is good, but is still thinking like that shitty guy. So just don't be that guy. Hopefully this all made sense to you. If not,